Aerialmetrics Maptools is comprised of 5 basic tools, together with the ability to download our preferred processing profiles for Pix4D. In this video, I am going to step through the features of the 5 tools and give you a brief introduction to each of them, explaining when they would be used and their essential functions. Before we can use the tools, we need to open some files. So I will begin by going to the File menu and selecting Open. In the Open dialog, you are presented with the option of entering 3 different types of data. The first is a pointer to the directory that contains your images from a particular capture mission. The second is a scene orthomosaic, and the third is the markup of a scene in KML format. You can enter one or more of these depending on where you are in the process and which tools you're planning to use. For now, I am simply going to point to the image directory and select the directory that contains the images that I captured. Once I've selected that directory, I can select OK. The software will take a minute to process the images in the directory and then present you with a brief summary of the scene. It identifies the street address at which the images were taken, the date, the number of images, the total flight time, the number of sorties, that is the number of times you landed to change batteries, this is just an estimate, the camera that was used, what your white balance settings were, and the average and maximum speed at which each photo was taken, if that is available on the drone that you're using. This can be useful particularly when you're working on a low light scene and you may be concerned that there may be some blur on some of the images. Once you've selected an image directory, you will notice that 2 tools immediately became available. We're going to talk about each of those in turn. The first is the coverage analyzer. I can access the coverage analyzer by clicking the button on the left-hand side. For those of you who have used Pix4D and reviewed the quality report, this diagram will be quite familiar. It illustrates the coverage that has been achieved on different parts of your scene, with dark green representing the highest coverage with 5 or more cameras covering that particular area, and red representing the lowest coverage with only 1 camera covering that area. This can be used as a very quick way to verify that you have sufficient coverage of your scene for subsequent processing in Pix4D or other photogrammetry software. In order to understand which parts of your scene are captured by each image, you can select any point in this diagram and it will bring up on the right hand side each of the images that cover that part of the area surveyed. You will notice that in each image there is a yellow circle that is identifying approximately the point marked by the red X in the central diagram. We can see that these 4 images were taken at an oblique angle, which accounts for the triangular nature of the area that was covered by them. We can quickly assess whether the area shown in each of these photos is important for our mapping or is simply peripheral to it. You should note that the coverage analyzer prepares a 2-dimensional analysis only and does not take into account the effect of 3-dimensional objects such as trees or buildings. So for example, with this scene, if there were buildings in this location or trees in this location, clearly the area to the north would not have been captured in the photos. That would not be reflected in this diagram. The primary use for the coverage analyzer is to confirm sufficient coverage quickly while still on scene. However, it does have one other purpose. Sometimes a pilot can capture too many photos of a scene. which tends to cause the processing in the photogrammetry software to take an excessively long time. Using the coverage analyzer, we can come to File, Move Excess Images, and we will be given the option of identifying those images that are strictly unnecessary to achieve sufficient coverage. Once those are identified, they can be moved to a separate directory and excluded from the subsequent processing in the photogrammetry software. We select Yes, identify a location that we would like to move the excess images to, and the process will start with a status bar along the bottom. When it completes, the excess images will have been moved to the folder that you identified.